Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. Welcome to the Clutter Fairy Weekly for May 5th, 2020. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking, as always, with Gayle Goddard, professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. This is our weekly podcast and webcast where we talk about all things organizing, all kinds of tips and tricks, strategies. And today our strategies are going to be about the garage. We're so happy you can send us questions on all the channels, and we will be doing our best to answer them.
If you're joining us in the Zoom meeting for the first time, you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle gets to them before we move on to a different topic. Although today we're mostly about one topic, garages, because it's a big topic. You can also use the raise hand feature to let me know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. We are streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can also share your questions and suggestions there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. And during the live webcast each Tuesday, you can also talk to us directly by calling 669-900-6833. Use meeting ID 993-419-863 to join the meeting. Okay, before we get to our main topic of garages, we wanted to talk about a viewer comment that was kind of interesting. Amy on YouTube said, and this was in reference to our discussion last week about saving things for family. Amy said, I wonder if statements like, I'm saving it for family, become a blanket excuse for keeping the whole thing. And if we peel back that blanket item by item, we may realize the statement doesn't apply to everything we've made up our mind to keep. What do you think about that?
I think it is one of the most guilt-free excuses that we use to keep stuff. It's very easy to say, I'm keeping it for family, and to not think about it too hard. So you can say, I'm keeping it for family and stop. Just like we say, I have to keep it, it was a gift, and stop. And you really have to take that reaction a little bit farther and start asking yourself some more questions. And I think that's where we get caught. So if you start to say to yourself, I'm keeping that stuff over there for family, and you don't ask, okay, which family member am I saving this for? Have I asked them if they need it? Is everything in that pile appropriate for that person or for the family members that I'm talking about? It's sort of a mental avoiding technique, I think, to go, I'm saving that for family, and then you sort of just check out and assume it's going to stay. And so you want to notice when you do it, and then stop and ask yourself, like she said, peel back the blanket and ask a few more questions, and ask it while you're looking at the exact stuff that you think that falls under that category. So one, you have to ask yourself more questions, and two, you have to go and look at the pile, because inevitably any pile will attract other things. It will start to multiply. It's breeding over there in the corner, and it will attract other things that don't have anything to do with that family member or any member of the family at all, the family collectively or individually, and you will end up with things that got there by accident. So you do want to examine how you're using that excuse and go and look at the stuff specifically, and then ask that person that you have in mind specifically. And if you tackle it from both of those ends, then it stops becoming an excuse and it starts becoming a filter. And that's really where you want it to be. You want it to actually become a filter.
Well, and I think that doesn't just apply to I'm saving it for family. Mm-hmm. Whatever you are identifying as your reason for keeping something, if you look at something and it's not, you don't use it all the time, you don't particularly love it, it's not beautiful, it's not meeting one of those primary requirements, but you're still keeping it, you have a reason, you should contemplate whether it's a reason or an excuse, a reason or a rationalization.
Yes, rationalization is the perfect word.
The popular, it costs a lot of money.
Right.
which we've, many times we've said it costs a lot of money is not a good reason to keep something that's no longer useful to you.
Yeah, it's really a rationalization.
Yeah. And the keeping it for family, I think my parents followed a really good practice, which was for over the last 7 or 8 years that they lived in their house before they moved recently into independent living. Every time any family member visited, mom and dad would parade out things that they were figuring were going to have to go at some point and say, do you want this? Is there anything you're interested in? Can I put your name on something so that it'll be yours when the
Take
time
this
comes?
away, put this
Yeah,
in the car.
yeah. Go up in the attic, dig through our stuff.
And that's
And,
a great thing to do, right? And luckily you have a large quantity of siblings, and so they're getting visited by a lot of people, and it helped them redistribute a lifetime of stuff. And I think that you guys took furniture away, and you took, kitchen stuff away, and you took decor away, and you were able to divest them of some large items and made it much easier for them to downsize later.
well, and by having those kind of candid conversations, they could find out they had, there were things that none of us wanted, and they could feel perfectly happy giving those away to donation or to friends who, sometimes friends of their own generation were interested in things that none of the kids wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think I have this experience with clients where they say, I'm saving that for my daughter. And I say, well, have you asked her about it? Has she expressed an interest in that item? No. So it's that in our minds, we think these people might want these things. There's potential that they might want them, but we don't know for sure. And so it's a hesitance to, take things away from them that they might want, but it's not real. It's still you just going, I would feel more comfortable giving this to somebody I know, so that I know where the thing has gone and I know how it will be used, versus I'm giving this anonymously into the river of stuff and I don't know where it's going to land. And I think everybody gets a better feeling when they know it's going to benefit someone who is part of their life and part of their family. And we wish that all of the things could go to them, but I always have to remind clients they have their own house full of stuff and they're not going to want everything in your house. And so, yes, they'll be able to take a few things, or they may express interest in a few things, but this huge volume of stuff in this room is not all going to one person. That isn't going to happen. And besides, then you have to ship it across the country. And they can buy it again in California. Instead of having it shipped from Tennessee to California, they can, it'll cost more to ship it than it will be to buy it on the other end fresh. And so it is often an excuse that we make to keep something, to make sure that we're not offending the family member by letting it go. Like Ed said, they had to wait for all the kids to say, no, we don't want it, before they felt comfortable giving it to their friends. And I would say, if their friends expressed an interest, go with that.
Yeah.
Instead, right? Like,
yeah,
right? Like, start with the friends. If the friends are into it, then you can go, here, you can have it, and it'll be one less thing that your kid doesn't have to worry about. There you go.
Okay. Excellent. Let's get on to our main topic.
Okay.
We're continuing with our series of organizing room by room, and today's topic we've called "The Garage is Also a Place to Park Your Car."
Which, there's so many people that don't put their cars in the garage. I want you to see behind me is this beautiful empty garage. This is your goal. This is what you're aiming for. Mostly because you can see that this is a double wide garage, like a 2-car garage, and there is absolutely no space between the edge of the door and the wall. Like, it's a very compact garage. So this one in particular doesn't intend to have anything much on the sides. And I'm guessing that towards the front, this direction, there's probably a step up deck at the back where there's intended to be a little bit of storage. But in this environment, this is one where you would have to put a shelf to be able to use it to store much. You'd have to hang some shelving unit platform above where the door mechanisms are to store things long term. Anyway, this is a good Zen picture. It could be an empty garage. It could be an empty floor space that the car can park in. That's what we're aiming for today. So this is the time of the year when we normally start thinking about having a garage sale, and the weather in Houston has really been helping out. It's stayed cool and the humidity is low and much longer into the spring than normal. While we're staying home so much, though, I'm guessing you've already done a lot of work around the house, and now you can take advantage of going into the outdoors and work in the garage. And while we probably can't justify having a garage sale, you can certainly work on letting things go and getting things into trash and recycle, and letting some of those things be put out for heavy trash. So we're going to talk about that today. The garage is the room where all things go to die. I have said this a million times. Or it goes to be stored forever if you prefer. It's the room that's the farthest from all the living space in the house. It's not usually climate controlled, and we spend as little time as possible out there. For many people, the garage is the on-site storage unit that came with the house. We don't have to make it pretty. No one expects a garage that looks lovely inside. Many of us just throw things in there and then we run away. And the garage is the last place that one can store things instead of throwing it out. So when you don't want to use valuable space inside the house, when it's no longer something that you would use, when there's no space for it in the decor anymore, out into the garage it goes. It gets the stuff out of the way, but you still don't have to throw it away or donate it. It's the ultimate deferred decision making in action. This is the last bastion of I refuse to make the final decision, therefore I'm putting it in the garage. The problem is the garage is a finite box just like the rest of the house, and it will eventually fill up. Clearing it out will be a major project, but the rewards are so visible and impactful to your life, you'll be glad that you did it. It's time to consciously decide how you want to use the garage, what its purpose is for your family. Instead of the backwater of the house where all things go to die, decide what you want to do and have in there and organize it accordingly. Sometimes thinking of it as a room that needs planning and organization can help you filter the contents better. So give the garage a defined purpose and evaluate the contents against that purpose. Don't think of it as a dumping ground, but as a room of the house that was designed to function with a purpose, to have a reason to be, and what a need to hold specific things for your house. So what about people that don't have garages? I'm sure that you have a garage stand-in, like a basement or a built-out attic, or maybe you have a shed out back. Some people have like freestanding shed buildings that are in the backyard. It could also be a storage unit off-site, where whatever your non or barely climate controlled space is that you use as a dumping ground to prevent you from actually throwing things away, they can all be handled with this garage redo strategy. So let's get to that. Here's the strategy for cleaning out the buried garage. So the biggest thing about planning this project is that you want to do it on a weekend. Generally, if it was work time, right now you can do it on any couple of days in a row if you're staying at home and everybody's working at home. So you want to do it around when you have some full free days, and you also want to do it close to a heavy trash pickup day. So in Houston, those happen every other month. So every 2 months, the window comes around when you can put things out for heavy trash. And so usually they allow you to start putting things out Friday of the weekend before the following week when your pickup day is going to be. So basically they know you're going to work over the weekend and you're allowed to put things out over the weekend, and then sometime during the following week they come around and pick it up. And so one thing that does for you is that if you can put things out for heavy trash, then A, you don't have to take it to the dump, and B, other people can pick it for the 3 or 4 days that it's out there, and things can be rerouted to someone else. So it's a good way to simultaneously create some urban recycling and also ultimately have it all go off and go away, because the heavy trash people will eventually come and pick it up that week. So it's a great way to let people have access to it and for you to not wait a long time. And then you don't have to pay somebody to take it for you. So before you start this project, you also want to find the nearest recycling center, the nearest donation center, and the nearest hazardous materials center. So you're going to have a whole lot of things that need to go to all 3 of those places, and you want to know where those things are and what their hours are and when you're going to be able to donate to them. For instance, the hazardous materials center in my neighborhood has some weird hours. They're not a 9 to 5 access place. So there's 2 days during the week where there's 4 hours a day that you can go, and then there's like a window on Saturday that's 3 hours long or something. And so you need to coordinate your ability to drop off these things according to the center that's near you. And so when I do a hazardous chemical drop, if I'm going to do a garage on a weekend, I need to pull all the chemicals out right away and put them in a car and take them while their hours are happening. Otherwise, I have to put them in the car and I have to take them home and unload them and wait 3 or 4 days for the next hazard chemical window to happen. So you want to try to coordinate when you're going to be able to go take those things and dump them off, and try to coordinate your project weekend around when you can do that. So don't forget, you cannot just throw all those hazard chemicals in the trash. That is the biggest mistake that people make. Oh, I don't want to be bothered with that, and they start throwing a bunch of really toxic chemicals into their trash can. No, don't do that. Make a pile, find them all, and while you're making the trip, go into the house and find all those old cleaners that you don't actually want to use anymore, and go under all those bathroom sinks and under the kitchen sink, and you find all of that toxic chemical stuff that you're ready to let go of and make one trip. Please make sure you don't put them in the car in something that they can tip over in and spill into your car. You will be really sorry. So be careful in the transportation of it as well. There is in the United States, there is a company called Bagster, and the website is thebagster.com, and we'll put that up in the comments later. It's available in most of the area of the U.S., and it is a Bagster on the driveway. So it's sort of tarp material and it folds up. You buy it at a home improvement store. You can fold it out onto the driveway, and then you can throw in construction material, broken furnitures, all kinds of stuff that would come out of the garage and need to go in trash and would quickly overwhelm your trash cans, or that you would have to hire someone to and pay to haul away. You can throw into a Bagster and then pay for the waste management company to come and pick up the Bagster off your driveway. And so
Is it pretty much anything non-hazardous?
anything non-hazardous, yes. And you can put, like, where you're not supposed to put concrete and lumber and construction materials in your regular trash can.
Oh, right.
You can put those things into the Bagster. So we often find when we're doing the garage, out comes the leftover drywall from the repair that got made, and here comes the extra bag of concrete powder, whatever, before you mix it. Here's some old whatever, half-done paint, all that kind of stuff can go into the Bagster. Now they do have a small definition of things that they won't take, and regular garbage and food garbage won't go in there. You can't put things like the TV, but
what about yard waste?
I can't remember about the yard waste, but they define it on the bag, what's not appropriate to go in there.
Okay.
But it's a perfect thing to receive all of the random gigas that are in the garage that won't really fit in the trash can or regular trash can, or they don't want you to put in the regular trash can. And it's a low cost way to get a whole bunch of stuff out, and the bag accepts up to 3,300 pounds, so you can really load it up and they will haul it away. And it's a perfect place for people, like I said, urban recyclers can come up to the Bagster and pick through that as well. So if it'll make your project take longer, but if you feel really energetic, you can list a few things on nextdoor.com for free pickup. The move client that I'm working with, we got into a room that was sort of a enclosed patio kind of room, and there was like 25 cans of paint from a remodel that happened a decade ago, and some of them were the 5-gallon cans, and it's like, oh my God, that is so much paint. So I took it all outside to sit on the driveway, and then I asked her to take a picture and put it on Nextdoor, and there were swarms of neighbors that came from next door to pluck through all of the paint cans and take them away. And so we got rid of like 15 out of 20 cans just by putting it on Nextdoor. It does increase your task list. It does make your project go longer. So you might just put them out on the curb and see if people take them away in the meantime. So you found out where everything's going to go. You planned your weekend according to when heavy trash is coming. You went and got your Bagster if you have that available as an option, or any kind of an equivalent. So now it's time to dive in. So we're going to pull everything out of the garage onto your driveway. Let me just tell you how much fun that is. Now it takes all day, right? And let me just say, when you do a garage, it's not like doing a room in the house where you can work on it sort of and then walk away and come back a week later and do some more. Whatever you leave out on the driveway is not going to always be there when you come back. So whatever work you can get done in this sorting process in a day and get it back, put back away, is what you need to aim for. If you have enough help, if you have the energy, if you have the capacity, you can pull the whole garage out. But if you can't, then you want to take a zone out at a time. And so Mary was talking about earlier that she's got to move the front part of the garage out so that they can come and replace the garage door. So for her, the zone is going to be the front of the garage, and she's going to pull all that stuff out and sort it and move it around or donate it or whatever, however she's going to filter the contents. But she's only going to work on the area that's going to be in the way of the garage people first. So if you have the capacity and the space and the time, and then you can pull everything out of the garage at once. And the reason I say that is because you're going to sort it into categories, and as you collect all these categories, you're going to have things for every category all over the garage. And if you can't pull it all out in one day, you're going to have to re-sort your categories a few times as you move your way around the garage. And so if you can make it happen, pull it all out and sort. Once you start sorting into, here's some examples of categories I mean. Here's the holiday gear. Here's the sports gear, the garden tools. Here's what I do to maintain the car. Here's repair tools. Here's some keepsakes. There's always keepsakes out there. Here's the extra luggage. There's always some collections of things out there, and they're probably spread all around. One person that I knew had stored extra, like they went to the Costco and they bought large quantities of stuff, and they stored the excess. They sort of had a secondary pantry in their garage, which made me nervous, but it didn't make them nervous. That was what they did with the extra stuff. You're going to also have a heavy trash pile, right? As you do this sorting, half of what you're bringing out there is probably going to go into the Bagster or going to go at the curb for heavy trash pickup. You're going to have a recycle pile. You're going to find a bunch of things that can go out to recycling. You're going to have things that you immediately recognize as donation, and those are going to go somewhere, hopefully. And you're going to have this toxic chemical pile that needs to be disposed of with the toxic chemical site. So as you pull everything out, some of those things are very immediately going to become items that never go back in because they're going to be donated, recycled, disposed of in some way, right? And you want all those things to go straight to that pile and get dealt with. And those are things that will never have to be put back in the house, into the garage. And so if they get left overnight, doesn't matter. If somebody takes them away, doesn't matter. And so you can concentrate on getting the things that are important back into the garage. We need to adjust this plan if the garage is really big. In terms of emptying the whole thing, if you have, you know, we do everything big in Texas. If you have a garage that's a 3-car garage, or it's a 2-car garage with an extra part towards where the front of the car would be, that's, you know, another level of storage or shelf, sometimes the area is very, very large. And so if you can't deal with it because it's so big, then you want to break it down into parts, divide it into halves or quarters, and work on it one area at a time and complete it 100% before you move on to the next area. And that way each, you know, half or quarter can be a different day if you need it to be. I was doing virtual organizing with a lady in Idaho, and she was working on her garage, and it was actually, I guess it was a 2 or 3-car garage, but it also had like a side workbench area on the side, and there was a lot of space across the back. So it was clearly it was a really big building. And so we divided that one up into quarters, and she would work on 1 quarter at a time. And it will mean that you do a little work more than once, because you'll organize everything for the quarter, and then you'll go to the next quarter and realize some of that stuff needs to go in the front and some of the stuff needs to go in the back, and you'll have to reshuffle a little bit as you go along. But it also it chunks the work down into more manageable bites. So just contemplate that if your room is really, really big. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that you need to be super ruthless. Don't forget that all these contents have been living in the black hole. This is the last black hole of the house. The garage is the, you know, place where everything went to die, and now it's dead, and you need to be ruthless and let it go. So don't find a reason to hold on to it anymore. Don't let it go back to the garage unless you really, 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 really need it. It really needs to pass a whole lot of markers that make it valuable to keep. And so this is the place where all of those deferred decisions, they go, you know, by the wayside, and you are actually going to decide on this stuff, and you're going to let it go. And you will feel so much lighter when you do. And you'll also, I do have the experience that people get in there and they pull this stuff out and they're like, oh my God, I forgot about that. Like, you sort of realize that it's been out there for 25 years and you really don't need to keep it anymore. And we talked about this example the last time too, of here was the camping gear that everybody used for such a long time when the kids were little, and now nobody's doing that anymore. And so you can decide now finally that it's okay to let that stuff be donated to somebody else, or go into the yard and be picked, whatever you need to do. Just be ruthless, okay? You're going to find lots of stuff that you save for your kids. Lots of stuff that you put out there in case you need it 10 years ago. Stuff that you used to use and the kids aren't in that sport anymore. Stuff that you were too tired or hot or bored or angry to deal with it at the time. So today is the deal with it day. You're going to deal with it now. And if you can just face it long enough to make a decision finally, you will feel so much lighter because of all the things you've shed. So in planning this garage, you want to make a plan for where various categories that you're keeping are going to go. So just like any room, you want to designate stations in that garage for where specific stuff goes. For the garden tools, for instance, I like to put them close to the door of the garage, because the garden tools are always going to get used by being taken out of the garage and then having to be brought back. And so you don't want that to be all the way back into the back of the garage. You want those to be closer up front. If you have the room for it, you know, you want to be able to push the lawnmower in and park it pretty quickly. You don't want to have to roll that all the way past the cars into the back of the garage. And so as you decide, here's where holiday's going to go, here's where garden tools are going to go, here's where the workbench is going to be with the tools, here's where the extra cooking gear is going to be. Whatever plans you make for what categories are going to stay in the garage, you also need to plan where those categories are going to be for most easy use. And this is no different than how we plan where things are going to go in the kitchen when you're trying to decide where the silverware is going to go. Right? Do the same thing in the garage about the categories that you're going to keep. Storage in the back, frequent use things in the front. Make it easy to get it stuff out, and make the things that you don't have to get to very often be in the storage areas that are difficult to get to. And you want to take advantage of all the new storage options for garage, like they've now designed this overhead storage so that just like the functioning of the garage is hanging from strips from the ceiling, they put those things in and hang basically plywood to create a shelf overhead that's up over the cars and over the garage door. And so this is a perfect place to put, here's all the Christmas decorations, here's the summer gear that only comes out 3 months a year, here's the extra fill in the blank, here's the camping gear when because we don't take it out more than 2 times a year, that kind of stuff. So you want to take advantage of the overhead things, the drop down storage where they make some of them on pulleys, which you can't really do exactly. I guess you could between the brackets here, but they make a version that's permanent. They also make a version that's on a pulley. So you unhook it and lower the platform down, put stuff on it, and then pull it back up over the top of the car. So you can take advantage of that overhead space in the garage as well and get things out of your way. And then, of course, you want to do on a wall like this, the only thing you could do is hang wall-mounted tool racks, and you can have tools be there and not interfere with the car because this little gap right here is so tiny. So you can put tools here. There's lots of wall-mounted hanger things and racking systems that are designed specifically for garages and the things that are in garages. And so they have sports equipment attaches and garden tool attachments and all kinds of things that will allow you to hang up and use the wall space in your garage. And then, of course, there's the standard, here I'm going to add a set of shelves here so that I can put boxes here. And that is always an option. So you probably want a deeper instead of a shallow shelf. You probably want it to be metal instead of plastic because the plastic will die faster in the heat and the metal will not be affected by the heat. Making those shelves appear so that they don't interfere with the car, they don't interfere with your ability to walk around the car, and then you can have some boxes on them that you can easily take on and off without being a physical hazard for you. So we all want to get the tallest shelf possible, but you have to remember that it's going to be hard to get the stuff off the top. So keep that in mind. There's always ways to make the garage function a little bit better. And you can spend a huge amount of money or you can spend hardly any money at all, but make it work for the zones and the stations that you need in the garage. And I think that's what I have to say about garages.
Well, Gayle, we have
oh my goodness,
a bunch of comments and questions.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
And so one from Cynthia on Facebook, she said, I found the Bagster to be more expensive than just ordering a small dumpster. And I think that's a function of region. So our advice there is call around. It depends how much stuff you have. A Bagster will hold about 3 cubic yards, and a small dumpster might hold 10 cubic yards. But if you only have 3 cubic yards worth of stuff, that dumpster is probably more than you need. But yeah, depending on how much dump space is available and things like that, that will determine which is the more economical thing for you. So call around and get prices before you make up your mind on that.
Well, the other thing is that with the Bagster, you buy the Bagster at the home improvement store and it's 35 bucks or whatever, and you bring it home, and then there's no time limit on that. Like, you
Right.
can buy it and then you can deploy it when you're actually ready to do the work. The dumpster, you're committed. You order the dumpster and it's coming, and then the rental starts, the clock starts ticking. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit more flexibility about planning with one. But
Yeah. So
and
the
if it's not
Bagster,
available in your region, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't work in your area, it doesn't matter. So whatever works for you, truly.
yeah, the Bagster might work better for someone who is going to have to spread their project out over a little more time, assuming
Yeah.
you can put it somewhere where it's not going to bother your neighbors or block your
Well,
driveway
it's
too
it's on
much.
your driveway, right? So
Several people asked questions about empty boxes and guidelines for keeping empty boxes. And we've addressed that other times recently, especially if in an unair conditioned garage with no heat or humidity control. Keeping boxes in there is kind of an invitation for insects.
well, and rodents and all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. I did a garage for a friend in Dallas area many years ago, and that was just where they put their cardboard boxes in case they needed them. And so every shipping box that they got just got thrown out in the garage, and it was a huge, huge pile that was probably 4 or 5 feet tall by the time I got there. And as we started breaking it down, because they were selling the house, they were moving out, the boxes had to go. And the bottom third of the boxes were basically a mouse house. They had,
Oof.
little, mice come in from the yard and move in and chew it up and tear it up. And it was decomposing. It was wet. It was damp. It was awful because it had been sitting there for so long and it had been rumbled through by insects and rodents. And so there is no box that's so important that you need to provide food for the local, bugs. So A, I would save some very specific ones. B, I would store them off the floor. And C, I would consider how valuable the storage space is that you're giving away to empty boxes. So if you're going to save moving boxes, for instance, you need to flatten them and then you need to store them above your head. And if you are storing here's the special box for the TV and all that stuff, you need to remember that the TV can be boxed another time. When you actually move, you can go and buy a box that's designed for that purpose. And you can also let them wrap it in blankets and strap it to the side of the moving truck. So yes, it's always lovely to be able to put the TV back in the box that was originally designed for it, but do you really want to have that cardboard in the garage getting humid and damp and wet and bug infested for the 15 years between now and when you actually move? And the cardboard will get compromised. And I have pulled out old cardboard boxes from the attics and garages, and if they've been out there for a long time, you touch them and they just crumble. They stop being cardboard. They dry out and they turn into crispy critters. And so the integrity of the box is getting slowly compromised over time. So yeah, if you use the box in the next year, it'll be fine. But 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, that box is not going to be safe anymore. You're going to put something heavy in it and it's going to break through the box. Or you're
Well,
going to pick it up and you're going to poke a hole in it just handling the box.
Deborah points out it kind of depends on humidity and climate. Of course, Houston is the worst case scenario because the combination of heat and humidity is just, deadly.
Yeah.
And it depends on your circumstance too, because if you've rented a house with the understanding that you're going to buy a house in a year or two, it may make more sense to hold on to specific, boxes that serve really particular functions.
Boxes.
How much is, Ellie asked, how much is the hauling fee for a Bagster?
So the pricing it's about 35 bucks for the bag. And then I think the price is like $125 or $130 for the first Bagster. And there's some price differences across the regions. And so there is some fluctuating price depending on whatever their market forces are. But it's around 130 or 40 bucks for the first pickup. And then if you have more than one Bagster, so they're picking up more than one bag in one pickup, then the additional ones are slightly less. So you can, like I did a job where we were emptying out a house after somebody had moved in with their daughter. She would downsize to live with her family. And so we were emptying the house 100%. And we got to the garage, and it was like the only way we can do this is with a whole bunch of Bagsters. And so I lined up 3 of them on the driveway, and we filled up 3 Bagsters. And we were doing it over several days, and every night we would come back and more things would be plucked out of the Bagsters. It's like, thank God you're making room because we're not done yet. And so we paid the initial fee, and then instead of 140 or something, it was like 110 or 20 for the second and third pickups. And so and then they came and took all 3 bags all at once. And so it's as many bags as you can make room for and that they can still access with the truck. It's a great solution for not having to load up somebody's truck and physically, and it's just a lot easier to dump them in the Bagster for me and then let the big truck with the mechanized arm come and take the bag away. So
well, and on that note, Mary pointed out to be careful about where you position it.
Yes.
You have to watch out for overhead wires to make sure that they will be able to pick it up and take it away.
Yeah, and they give those parameters on the bag about how far away and how to position it.
One more question about Bagsters. This was also from Ellie. What happens to the bag? And she says, I guess it's not biodegradable. These just, I'm assuming since it's mixed, the whole thing just goes to landfill.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. I know that they come and pick them up and put them in a truck and drive away with them. And I don't know that they take them and throw them out. I'd have to find out about that. I need to ask them. It's kind of tarp material. It's like tarp material.
Yeah, my guess though is since it's completely mixed and there's no way they're going to be sorting the contents, that probably the whole thing is going to a landfill. That would be my guess.
They wouldn't be able to just empty it and dump it out and reclaim the bag. Wow, I don't
know. We'll have to look into that.
I would like to reclaim those bags.
Well, we are about out of time. There was one more great comment I wanted to share though from Karen on Facebook. Said, I have a ton of horse tack in my garage that I am donating to a rescue. I had no idea how much I have. And the great point of that comment is the garage is one of those places where you have no idea what you have if you've been there for more than a few years. So get out there and look.
Forgotten. Well, and everybody wants to avoid the garage, and so as a result, we forget the contents of the garage a lot faster than we do any other place in the house because we don't spend any time out there, right? I'm so glad you guys came to listen to us talk today. We are so happy that you join us every week. I hope that gave you some great ideas about working on the garage, and we will be back next week to talk about dealing with the master bedroom.
Yes, we will.
Air-conditioned commentary this time. Write us and tell us how it goes.
I would remind our viewers and listeners that our YouTube channel has more than 100 videos on a wide variety of organizing topics. Go to cfhou.com/YouTube.
There we go.
Click subscribe on YouTube to get notifications whenever we post something new. As Gayle said, our next webcast will be on Tuesday, May 12th at noon U.S. Central Time, live in Zoom and streaming on Facebook, and we'll be talking about the master bedroom. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live to get notifications about upcoming events. Please join our meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or subscribe to our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please send us your questions and topic suggestions in the YouTube comments or on any of our channels, and you can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thanks, you guys. Great to see you. Everybody stay safe and well, and we will see you on the flip side.
Bye-bye.